Pull the hook on your left.
Oh yes, very, very nice.
What's up guys, Danielle here, Nutrisport.net. So before we get any further, I just wanted to tell you that this video is not about tariffs. So if you were looking for some of that really great subscriber grabbing content about tariffs, probably need to go to a different channel. So instead, today what I'm going to focus on is making a list of the 10 companies that I think are most focused on professional bicycle mechanics and making products that are for them. There are going to be companies that are not on the list that you think should be on the list. There are going to be companies on my list that you think shouldn't be there. And by all means, feed the algorithm in the comments and tell me what I did wrong. My main criteria is that the company makes something or lots of things that focus on making the everyday life of a bicycle mechanic easier, more efficient, better, possible. With that, let's go.
Let's do this!
So right off the bat, I just want to make sure that we know that these are not best to worst. So this is like apples, oranges, and grapes all in the same basket. They're all good. They all have different strengths. So instead, what I'm doing is 800-pound gorilla in the industry to scrappy spider monkey taking some market share. So speaking of 800-pound gorillas, let's start with number 1, and that is Park Tool. So at any given moment in the shop, if you were to reach into a drawer, there's a good chance that you would accidentally or intentionally grab a Park Tool. There may be some of you that look at Park Tool being on this list and think, well, I'm done with this video, and turn it right off. Because they do weird things. You know, they sue people over the color blue, and they're very big, and they kind of throw that around sometimes. And I really have a passion for those small, scrappy guys that are getting in there and making something really cool and innovative. But you can't deny that Park Tool is paying attention and that they do care on some levels. So they have Calvin Jones, he's like the patron saint of bicycle tools and bicycle mechanics. He's really always looking for that innovative edge. So when new technology comes out, who is typically first to market with a tool to work on that new technology? It's Park Tool. So this last year, I got a little care package from Park Tool. It wasn't full of stuff that's gonna make them millions of dollars, right? It was small stuff. They came out with a 3-way to work on electronic group sets. They came out with a bleeding adapter for the bleeding edge for mineral oil for SRAM, since SRAM was doing their transition where all their mountain bike brakes were going from DOT fluid, which is a great idea. Good job, SRAM. Came out with spoke wrench number 6, sent me the D-clamp insert so that if you were working on a giant, you could put this in there, and those D posts, and probably my favorite thing that they sent, and the favorite thing they made last year. So this is a knurled tap handle that you actually just stick your tap in. So these are not things that Park Tool had to make. They're not things that Park Tool is gonna make tons of money on. These are just things that they thought of and thought, man, wouldn't that make somebody's life easier? And then they made it. On top of that, and on top of all this stuff that they make and all the other things that they make, they do scholarships, they do community grants. They also have started to put things out for free. Like if you look on their website right now, there's a bunch of 3D print files for hanging specific tools on pegboard. Now I fall on the drawers side of the pegboard versus drawers argument, but if you use pegboard, Park Tool's putting out prints so that you could 3D print a holder for different things, like a holder for their torque wrench, things like that. So Park Tool, while they are big, you can't deny that they are truly focused on this industry, probably more than anybody else. They do have consumer level tools that can be pretty bad and pretty low end, but those aren't the tools that we're focused on. So Park Tool spent their 60-ish years carving out their spot as the big guy, and even as the big guy, they do pay attention. So I'm giving them the credit where credit is due. Now, before you get all upset that I called Park Tool the biggest tool brand, let's move on to number 2, and that is Unior. Unior is 106 years old this year. Did not start as a bicycle tool company, but has been making bicycle tools for a very long time. So I don't have my travel kit handy to pull all this stuff out, but I did do a big review of a Unior toolkit. I have some Unior tools that I do use. These electrician color tools basically are because Park Tool sued them about using the color blue in the United States. So Unior's tools were traditionally blue, but over here they're all this red and orange color, and I think maybe globally they're gonna switch to that in general. So the cool thing about Yunor, they have the biggest catalog of tools for bicycle mechanics that I have ever seen. They range in quality from just normal tools to pretty interesting ideas. They have a square taper crank remover that I thought was pretty interesting. They also focus on not just tools, but how to set up your workshop professionally. In the United States, since Spark Tool is a US company, they obviously have a leg up here and are more ubiquitous. But Unior has really been making a push here in the United States, and globally I'd say that they're a pretty big powerhouse in this space. I ended up scraping their catalog for my bike tool finder, which has all these brands and more in it. And honestly, truly, if you're ever just wanting to be impressed by offerings, just go to look at the Unior catalog and flip through the pages. I really do feel like they focus on bike mechanics, they focus on us as a profession, and bicycles as a serious thing and a serious profession. So Unior gets an A+. Number 3, Pedro's. So it's not a super well kept secret at this point that Pedro's is one of my favorite tool companies. They started in the 80s as just a lubricant company, lubricants and cleaners, things that were pretty good for the environment so that you didn't have to worry so much about all the chemicals that you were touching. And then they evolved kind of into this very focused tool company as well. And the tools that they make, while they also span the range from consumer level to professional, they really do focus on developing professional tools that save time, work better, are more efficient, save space in a toolbox. There's all kinds of little things. So one of the things that I look at to see if a company really focuses on mechanics is, do they iterate? So you see that with Park Tool, they have, version 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. The same thing is true about Pedro. So this is the second vice whip, improved to work with more speeds, have better adjustment capabilities with the numbers, all that stuff. You see them do that with their chain tools also. So like the two-toe has had multiple, they have 2 iterations. The pro level tool has some of the features that the two-toe has. So there's just so many things. Like, for example, I came out with a video about this tool, the chain whip. I really like the chain whip. I know that everybody uses these vice whips, but there are some things that say they don't want you to use pliers. Like this SRAM transmission doesn't want you to use cassette pliers. And if you identify the vice whip as cassette pliers, then maybe you would need a chain whip. So their chain whip is cool because it has the spring-loaded part, but I always hated how thin the handle was. So that was a change that I made in a previous video. But if you look at the chain whip now on Pedro's website, they actually came out with a new version that has a thicker handle. Did they have to do that? No, they didn't. But when you talk to them, you can tell that they're really engaged with what people do in the bicycle world and making that easier for them and better for them. Not to mention they made the best bicycle tire lever ever created. So to top it all off, the cost of these tools is not prohibitive. So bicycle mechanics don't traditionally make tons of money. You can get a professional level tool, and a lot of times in the lineup, there are actually multiple levels of professional tool. So you can pick exactly what you want or need. And that's kind of true about all 3 of these first brands. The prices of the tools are not bad. Moving on to number 4, VAR Tools. VAR Tools is 80 years old and they're from France. So they've been focused on bicycle tools since the beginning in 1945. That is awesome, and I really appreciate what they're doing. That said, over here, they're known more for their cutting tools. So they have their disc brake facing tool that they just came out with a new version, again, iterating. Then they have lots of other tools as well, but the frame tools are what people used here. By the time I knew about VAR Tools truly, I already was well entrenched in the Park Tool cutters. But I did manage to find these 2 unopened French crank removers from them, still in their original package with the VAR price tag. They were $4.95 whenever this was. So this is an example of them being just a very long-running tool company. This is where they kind of stuck in my brain until recently when I saw them at the Philly Bike Expo. So they make all kinds of stuff, and they have a wide catalog of bicycle tools, pretty specifically honed in, lots of cutting tools, but they also have other bottom bracket tools and things like that. They've actually just came out with some bottom bracket tools as well. With 80 years of focusing just on bicycle tools, they really deserve a mention here, and I think that globally they're more prevalent than here, and I'm excited to explore them more now that I have a US contact. But I wanted to give them a shout out because it does seem like they invest significantly in this industry and making tools for it. Number 5, efficient Velo tools. So EBT is pretty well known for that right arm repair clamp, and that's kind of where they were the most famous when I was coming up in the industry. Every mechanic wanted that clamp. The tiny clamping surface, you didn't have to move the seat, just the nice operate. It's just a very well-made clamp. And Brett, the owner, effectively created the entire company just to support bicycle mechanics. Not only did he make things like the repair clamp and the easy lift stand and other big items that are kind of pricey, on the pricier side, but he also made small tools like the mole finger, which has become one of the most popular spoke nipple tools on the market. Just a small thing. So he even has what he calls a starter kit for EBT that is a poke race, which is like a replacement for a standard dental pick or replacement for a sharpened spoke, the mole finger nipple loader, this guy, and a whetstone. So he's kind of playing with that idea like, yeah, handmade tools, especially handmade here in the United States, are going to be pricey, but if you want to start somewhere, here's some of the cool little stuff I make. So one of the best investments that I made as a mechanic was actually getting this 2-in-1 inflator. So pressed a valve or Schrader valve really easily and a very accurate gauge. Now, some kid knocked it off and dropped it, so definitely get the protector for that. But this was one of the best things that I bought. It was not cheap. Nothing on EBT's website is cheap, but it is all made so well that you'll just never need to replace it. Now, one of my rankings for if a company is focused on bicycle mechanics is also that bicycle mechanics can afford it. And I feel like EBT kind of approaches that line, but is very cognizant of how much the thing costs versus how much they have to sell it for. So they've come out with their portable stand, the field unit, which I actually have a big review coming up in the future because I just got it. With that, they were partnering with Yunor, and that actually gave them the opportunity to potentially come out with a less expensive version of the right arm clamp. And that is made slightly differently to reduce the cost of the clamp in order to get it in the hands of more mechanics. Really, Brett is focused on how do I make things better, more efficient, easier for the bicycle mechanic who's actually in the field. So I try to support EBT as much as possible. Number 6, BSC. So BSC started specifically because Dave was making tools to solve problems. That's the story of a lot of these companies. So a cool thing about BSC is that they combine machining with 3D printing.
Wonder Twin Powers, activate!
So on the one hand, you have a super nice CNC machine tool, and on the other hand, you have a 3D printed holder or 3D printed parts. There's all kinds of cool applications for 3D printing, and we're seeing that more and more in tool companies as well. So BSC makes this super wide range of stuff. They brought back rim rods. They also recreated a lot of stuff that has since gone away that other companies used to make, like Bicycle Technologies making their nipple driver. Now BSC makes a nipple driver that's very similar to that and works basically exactly as well. They also make a bunch of these adjustable bits for nipple driving of different shapes and types. So you can actually use this and you can use their handle. So put them together and then you can swap it out for whatever you actually need at the time. Bunch of them. And over the years, their catalog has really grown to include a lot of stuff. They started worldwide shipping, so even if you're in the United States, you can get their stuff directly from them. I'd say the really great thing to me is that they're doing such high quality work and you get something that's machined so well from them, but it's not expensive. As a bicycle mechanic, you want access to super nice tools. You don't necessarily have the means to buy something very decadent. So everything is made with that in mind, but it's also pretty. Number 7, Abbey bike tools. So I famously or infamously don't own a lot of Abbey tools. So I have the Hag, which I feel like is the best tool that they actually make. It is a beautiful derailleur hanger tool and probably the best machine derailleur hanger tool on the market. I have the lever setter and I have this old through axle conversion kit where they hadn't quite figured out the green yet on the anodization. So you can tell that it's older because it's just not the same color as any of their other stuff. And look at that font on the bike tools part. So this one's like a classic. Now the reason I don't have Abbey tools is not because they're bad.
Whatever.
Now their whole brand philosophy is precision is our religion. So everything is super nice, super well made, very well finished. Jason, who started Abbey Tools, bike mechanic, race mechanic, started them because he was looking to fill the need for race mechanics to have the most precise, nicest, lightest, etc. tools. That is a great mission. If you watch the tour of their actual workshop, it's just an amazing space that you would love to have. And it kind of, after you see all of the tooling necessary to make things this way, it starts to justify the cost. All the tools at Abbey are made with a because we can mentality. So right from their website, the quote is, "We design new tools without concern for the final price. This doesn't mean we aim to build expensive tools. Rather, we aren't willing to cut corners in the name of price." There's part of me that agrees with that. Then there's part of me that feels like pricing is a barrier to them as a company. And having Abbey tools has gotten to be one of those things that it's kind of a question of whether you have them because you can say you have them, or you have them because you really believe that they were the best tool for the thing that you were doing. So they have some tools, like their tool that they made initially, the Crombie, that was built out of necessity and has become a tool that almost everyone has. I don't have one, but almost everybody has one, especially in a race kit, because it's a simple tool, a handle on the socket. You don't have to do, there's not multiple pieces. It's just very simple and it works. So I'm throwing Abbey in here because they were born with the bicycle mechanic in mind. Number 8, Monolith Tools. So Monolith is one of my favorite small tool companies to feature on here. So they started out making ergonomic spoke wrenches, combining 3D printing with machining, and really came out with something special. But they didn't just make one product and then call it quits. So what they ended up doing was iterating, like any good company who's really focused on getting a good result. So I actually have a great example here of them iterating. These are 3 stages of spoke wrench that they made, all the same size. So the first shape, the sort of tri-spoke shape that we have here, the one that I did the review on initially, and it's a 4-sided spoke wrench. So it does really well, has a nice snug fit. Then the founder, Aaron, started to actually iterate. So created a speed spoke wrench that you could actually spin from the top, as well as having the ergonomic sides also in the same size. Then ended up on this shape with multiple cutouts and this new material for the printing. So over time, he didn't just settle in on a very successful tool. When these came out, people bought them like crazy because they're really comfortable and really easy to use. Spoke wrenches are so personal. As you can see, I'm using one of the universal spoke wrench trays for other ones that I have. But he didn't stop, right? He kept going. And that's one of the things that I look for in a company that I'd like to support is you don't just sit there. You start to try to iterate. You start to make new things. And that's cool. So you can see that in things like this that Aaron also made, which is just a Park Tool clamp adapter. So let me grab a clamp. So instead of just having this piece, you actually slide this guy on there and screw it back in. And it makes a surface here that's easier to spin and more comfortable when you're adjusting the leverage on a traditional Park Tool clamp. So little stuff like that, just little lifestyle adjustment changes that he focuses on, as well as the thing that he started with. Now, wheel building is obviously the focus, and he also created this caliper that measures the ERD, and I did a whole review on this because it's awesome, and I love it, and it's like the best tool for measuring ERD on the market, bar none. So you can see that even as a small, scrappy company, leaning a lot on 3D printing, which is coming more and more into the forefront of our industry, Monolith is doing a great job of making a space for themselves that actually improves mechanics' lives over time. Number 9, CMH printed designs. So speaking of 3D printing, CMH printed designs, Chris over there makes tons of bicycle tools based basically explicitly on his bicycle mechanic friends asking for things and him experiencing things in life that he wants to build a solution for. So he has a huge Etsy shop. So he prints just tons of stuff. So he makes a lot of these innovative brake bleed tools and brake bleed blocks that allow you to modify exactly, like remove a shim to get a piston to come out so you can actually clean just one piston and not worry about both of them pushing out. There's just all of this cool stuff that he makes on his own and prints at his house and sells. So I'd classified nearly everything that Chris sells as a small quality of life upgrade for the mechanic that increases efficiency for not a lot of money. So these bleed blocks, these piston cleaning things, piston retraction tools, other things that he prints. There's just so much of it that you should really just go check it out. So I'm putting Chris here because he's like a mechanic for mechanics by mechanics. Number 10, Remco. So he kind of went from the company that does absolutely everything in the bicycle industry to a company that does exactly one thing really, really well, and that is Remco Tools. So Remco makes the bike lift that is an electric column-based lift stand. And the reason why I'm putting them in here as a tool company that is working for bike mechanics is there is no other real consumer for their product. And when they introduced the lift stand onto the market at the price that it was at, it changed everything for bicycle mechanics, especially when you have to lift e-bikes every day. They offer it in a bunch of different configurations to fit in just about any shop. Potentially the single most impactful tool introduced in the last couple of years. But the thing that sealed the deal for them being number 10 on this list was that my biggest point of contention with the stand when I got it was that they had made this lever too small. So as the lift stand went up, the bike would actually pivot because it was really hard to tighten with such a short amount of leverage. This led to me just using the Park Tool one in the stand because it was longer and it was the same size. And in response, they actually came out with 2 new levers this year that are longer. This one's actually adjustable. And then they have another one that's like this, but actually significantly longer and beefier, both of which solved exactly the problem that I was having. So not only are they targeting bike mechanics with their design and their price, but then they're iterating when bicycle mechanics give them feedback on how to make it better. So Remco is in here as kind of like the new kid on the block that really only makes one thing, but it is such an impactful tool to our life, and it costs so little that you can get 2 or 3 of them for the cost of some of the other lift stands on the market. I'm really appreciative of them and their mentality for what this industry is all about. So there's my 10.
And what may I do for you?
We want to take out a hefty loan.
So there you have it, my top 10 bicycle mechanic focused companies. And if you're just looking for a place to send your money, any of them will do. If you need tools, they're all great in different ways. And as you can see, like my toolkit is not made up of one brand. I don't think any one brand makes everything exactly right. I think they all have strengths, weaknesses, and the best thing to do is actually pick and choose and see where to go. Now, this was bicycle specific companies and bicycle specific tools. I truly believe that hand tools, you should go to a company that maybe isn't bicycle specific, like PB Swiss, Wera, 8 Allen keys. There are all these really great Vessel screwdrivers. Diversify your toolkit to be exactly what you want. This is an incredibly opinion-based video, an incredibly opinion-based theme, an incredibly opinion-based topic in general. Everybody has tools that they like and dislike for different reasons. Everyone is different.
Pink arm, red arm. Different.
Right.
Yep, but they both wiggle and jiggle.
So thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, you can like it. You can subscribe to the channel. It'll tell you every time I put one of these out. There'll be more to come. I have the field unit from EBT that I just got. It's still in the box. I'm actually going to be putting out a big review of that in the near term, so keep an eye out. I'll be linking to every company in this video in the description. Please go check them out. They're all great. There are a lot more companies in the bike tool finder on my website. So if you're a member and a supporter of the channel, you can actually access a database of, I won't say all, but almost all bicycle companies and all the tools they make in a nice searchable place so that you can compare different ones, see the different companies. To get to that, head over to neutralsupport.net. I also have swag, hats, aprons, all that stuff, the memberships. That all just helps support the channel. And to all of my supporters, I truly appreciate you. As always, hope you have a good day.